Hello, just a short tip video to show you how to enable localization on Unreal Engine. So at the moment I have this floating text here, which is a static string. It's not going to change at all, it's not bound to any language or anything. It's just a string. How would we localize that for multiple languages? So what you need to do is to create a folder somewhere in your project, and this is where you're going to keep your string tables. I don't know why I called it translations, that's what I was calling it before. So I'm going to call it string tables for now. Then what we need to do inside here is create a miscellaneous string table, and I'm just going to call it main for now. Basically you can have a string table for different sections of your game, so you might have one for the main menu, you might have one for the play level, you might have one for the game over screen, or you could, I suppose, have everything in one. It's just a way of splitting things up. So inside here I am going to add a single string which is going to say my amazing game, and I'm going to put in a key which is a random v4 UUID that I had in my clipboard. So we can now have a look at the localization dashboard. Let me just tweak something very quickly before we move on that was left over from the last time. Okay, don't worry about that, we'll cover that in a minute. So now we can go to Tools and open the localization dashboard. Now over on the left here there are different targets. I'm not exactly sure what that's for yet. I guess maybe if you had a server build and a client build or something like that. So anyway, this is the info that deals with the build target. All I'm going to do is enable gather from packages, and you need to add a new include path with wildcard. Sorry, some of this is left over from my previous attempt at recording. And then in the path with wildcard, you're going to put the path to the string tables. So for me, it's content, string tables, and then an asterisk, because we want to bring in every string table in here. That's good. Then down the bottom, we need to specify the default culture. Now I've already done that here, but for you, this native checkbox won't be ticked. And assuming your default culture is English, and by the way, Unreal is using the term culture here to refer to groups of languages. So what you would do is tick next to English. It would say, are you sure? You say yes, and that's you set up with your default language. Right, now what we can do is close this and come over to this text widget that I had created previously. How do I use that string? Well, this text widget has a content here, and as you can see, it's just set to the string localization example. All you need to do, let's just get rid of that. Anytime you see a text box in a blueprint like this with a flag, you have the option to hit the flag and pick from the string tables. What you're trying to do is associate the text with the key. Now we only have one key here, so that's fine. It automatically picked it, and it's displaying the correct text. We can compile that. I can come out of it, and of course it's still going to show, oh well, yes, because it was showing localization example, wasn't it? So that's now updated to my amazing game. But we still only have English. We haven't actually translated anything yet. All we've done is import the text from a string table instead of typing it manually. So what we can do is go back to the localization dashboard, and we need to pick the next language that we're going to add. Now, I'm not a linguist. I'm not very multilingual, so I'm going to keep things nice and simple here. I'm going to add French. Now, as you can see, when I selected French, there are tons of subcategories here, including French France. You don't have to specify one of these subcategories. These are languages or locales, and this main category here is the culture, as Unreal refers to it. So if you just select the culture, France, if somebody picks any of these subcategories for their language in the game when they're playing it, it will first of all look for one of these specific ones. And if it doesn't find it, it will look for the main category itself. So if I come in from Djibouti, and my native language is Djiboutian French or something along those lines, I could select that, and it would quite happily use the standard French translation. Now, that may or may not be correct for Djiboutian French. Maybe they use some different words. If you care about that, then you would add this one specifically and customize it. So you could be adding English UK and English US. One of them would spell colour with a U and one of them wouldn't, for example. Things like that. But anyway, we've added French. We're not going to set it as our default. And then what we're going to do is hit gather text. That pulls in all of the strings from our string tables and anywhere else that you've set it to look, and it will pull them together into one database in one place. This will only take a minute. There we go. And you can see, maybe, that there's now 3 in the word count for English, because English was our default language, so anything that we write in this string table is automatically English. This is English. We didn't have to translate it. That string was already English. So, my amazing game, 3 words. I don't know why it counts the words as opposed to the translations. Maybe that's just how they do things in the translation world. And I think if we hit count words... Oh, okay, yes, we haven't added that yet. So, next to French here now, we can hit edit translations for this culture. And that will open up a window which is split into untranslated, needs review, and completed. And under untranslated, it's showing me my English translation, my amazing game, and it's giving me a space over here where I can put in the French translation. And I know it's French because I did find this before. Bear with me for a minute. No, I can't seem to see it right now. Oh, of course, we know it's French because we edited the translations here. Sorry, I was forgetting it's not showing you all the translations in one place. So we need to translate my amazing game. Well, I'm afraid that my French translation is not that great. I think from memory it's something like mon jus incroyable. I'm very sorry if anybody's French and that isn't correct. That is the closest I can get thinking back 20-something years to my French lessons. But anyway, mon jus incroyable. I have added it there. Why can't I hit enter on that? What is happening? Is Unreal stealing my focus somewhere? Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, but it's showing up as untranslated. That's very strange. In the 5 or 6 times I have done this recently, it has worked perfectly at this part. Translation archive checked out and saved. That's normal? Okay, let me try that again. Let's come to edit translation. Oh, it was just the UI not updating properly. Typical. Yeah, so we now have a registered translation for that string. We don't have any more untranslated strings, so that's good. We can come out of here now. And if we hit count words, we should find that we now have 3 words also in our French culture. We do. And just because it seems like a good thing, I'm going to hit compile text. Don't actually know if that's required at this time, but it seems good. Right, what can we do with that now? If we come back to our text overview, and in fact we don't even need to because we've already set it to our string. That is the English version of our one string. How do we make it French? Well, there's a couple of different ways to do it. I think you can specify the language as a command line option for the fully compiled game. We're not going to do that here because that's not an easy way to develop. I think you can also, you can also create a main menu option, for example, where you can select your language. That's how it would normally be done on a high budget game, I would guess, or any game where somebody's put care into the menus. What you can do for easy development is come to editor preferences and come to region and language. Now when you look at this initially, this will be set to none because you didn't have a default language. Remember how we picked our default here with this checkbox, our native culture, sorry, not our default language. And so whenever that's set to none, it will use your default, surprisingly. But if we look in the list, we only have 2 languages, and they match the languages that we specified in the localization dashboard. How handy. So obviously if we set things to English, nothing's going to change because that was our default. But we now have the option to set it to Français, sorry. And sorry, I didn't read this clearly. This is under preview game language, so it doesn't change your editor language, just changes the language that you're previewing the game in. And how do we get that to change? Well, I've had some luck with it just happening. Like as soon as I come back to the editor window, that will have updated. I've had some luck where if I play the level, there we go, it has worked. And sometimes even then it hasn't worked, and I've had to restart the entire editor, load up the project again. But we're lucky this time. Everything's working. You can see that it is picking English still when we're in editor view, but the game itself, when we're playing it, is in English. Is in France. But there's some other things that I haven't fully tested. For example, languages that use right to left, such as Arabic, I believe. I haven't tried any weird character sets. There is one thing I've found. Let's say we were translating to Russian, and when we open this up, this is Russian. You wouldn't be able to see the Russian characters here very easily because this is using a Latin font. So what you can do for both the source and the translation, hit these buttons and it will let you pick fonts. Now, it's only looking in the Unreal Engine provided fonts right now, so there's not going to be any Cyrillic ones there, I don't think. But you can choose a font that matches up with your source or destination language. And I assume that that would let you work in languages with an alternate character set, and possibly even in right to left languages as well. As I said, I'm not a linguist. I don't know those languages well enough to test anything to satisfaction. So I'm just going to leave it with there. And you guys can experiment and tell me if it works. Oh, one more thing. We have in the content browser this directory called localization, and inside it is game, and inside there is the two languages that we have created. Do not put anything inside the localization folder. Do not put extra things inside these folders. That is effectively a build output folder. You do not want to be using that for your own purposes. Let the editor handle that. You can keep all your string tables somewhere else. It doesn't matter where, as long as you know where they are, and as long as they match the paths given in the path list to gather. And there are some other options in here of where to gather text, like you might be able to gather text from an external text file rather than a string table, and things like that. There's a lot of options in here. I don't know exactly what they all are, but yeah, I hope that's been helpful, and enjoy.